How close to death do you think you were?
I was an addict and I had no control over what I was doing.
He said the first time he saw you, you were wearing a nun's outfit.
Possible. I actually wish I was bisexual. I think it would be more interesting. But I'm not.
Boy George, I've been trying to nail you for this show for years. Why have you finally decided to succumb to my advances?
I think now feels like the right time. I'm in a really good place in my life. So it kind of feels comfortable to talk about my past, you know, because my present is so great. Do you know what I mean?
You're the most flamboyant, colourful pop star in all guises that we've probably ever had. How does that feel, to be that person, to be that iconic?
Well, I don't think you think about yourself in those terms. Do you know what I mean? You don't sort of wake up in the morning and think, oh, I'm really iconic. You know? You kind of
I do.
Yeah, you do. Maybe I should start practising that principle. I guess I've grown up in public. You know, life is about learning to be who you are, whether you're famous or not. When
you hear your own stuff on the radio, do you start singing? Burst into Karma Chameleon?
No, there's too many other people doing that. It's one of those things that wherever I go in the world, everybody thinks like no one else has ever done it. So I'll come up and sing Karma Chameleon. And
Is it always that one? Always.
And I've had it, you know, in Moroccan carpet markets. I've had it at the pyramids. I've had it up the Himalayas.
We're coming to that. So over the years, George, you've had some pretty iconic looks. I want to talk you through some of them. I've got some pictures here. The first one's from the Jay Leno show in America, promoting the musical Taboo. What's the look you're going for there?
I think everything and the kitchen sink. Right?
That's definitely you.
You sure it's me?
Yeah.
Not one of my best, is it?
It's interesting. The second one is you on holiday in Egypt.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Yeah. You were actually wearing the hotel's plastic waste paper basket on your head.
Yeah, it was...
Why, I suppose, is the obvious question.
Well, I wanted to do this Nefertiti turban, and the only thing that was the right shape was this plastic waste paper bin, so I cut the bottom out, stuck it on my head and wrapped a turban around it. It was very effective.
When you look in the mirror now, are you happy with what comes back at you?
Happier, I think. Yeah, happier. Now that I've kind of taken control of what I eat and exercising and, you know, trying to kind of lead a kind of healthy lifestyle.
You're clean now, right?
I'm 9 years clean on March the 2nd, yeah. No kind of chemicals, alcohol or drugs.
9 years.
Yeah.
Religion has been important to you. Spiritualism, I guess.
Yeah. When I got sober, I really felt like there was something missing from my life. Buddhism, you know, is something that I practice. I had a 26-minute chant this morning.
Did you?
Yeah, when I was doing this, I thought I better have a good chant. You have a bell and you light things.
I've got the bells.
Oh.
Yeah?
Well, they're Buddhist bells, but, yeah, they, you know, you do, like, it's a little ritual. So you have your, like, shrine and you do your little... And then you do a prayer, which I know off by heart. It's quite long. Do you want to hear a bit?
Yeah.
Yo renge kyo ho ben pondaini niji se san ju samayan joni gi go shariat shobuchi e jindin murio go chi e monange nan yu isai shoman yakashi but shofu no chi shoi shaga but so shingon yakasem man nakamu sho 8 minutes.
I'll just have the sushi, please.
These are lovely, by the way.
I remember watching that Top of the Pops, and I remember thinking, what is this? Who is this? You came along and you just changed things.
Well, you always think, well, people don't like us. You know, because we'd had so much stuff written about us, you know, and people didn't want to interview me. They didn't want to have me on kids' shows. I mean, people reacted not so well to us being on Top of the Pops, but the public loved us. You know, our audience up until then was kind of like weird kids in sort of Vivienne Westwood and punk rockers. And then overnight, we did a gig in Cambridge, and it was just full of you little girls dressed like me, screaming.
You ricocheted around the world. We've got an extraordinary headline from a South African newspaper from that period. Look at this. Is it a bird, is it a bloke, or is it, like it says itself, a puff with muscles? I mean, extraordinary bigotry, and yet at the time, absolutely what was the norm.
In the past, we had a very much a sort of spare us the details culture. You had lots of gay characters on TV, people that were clearly gay, but no one really talked about it. And we were the first sort of generation that refused to kind of be quiet. You know what I mean? We weren't going to sit there and, you know, not say something.
But you were banned from Russia. Father Ron McKiernan publicly tore up pictures of you and said you were corrupting the youth of Australia.
I know.
You were banned from Singapore.
Yeah.
Because
Argentina.
of your...
There was quite a few places. Chile I couldn't go to.
In Louisiana, on your third American tour, you had to wear protective,
bulletproof vest, yeah.
And why was that?
Because we had death threats. It was Halloween, and people called up and said they were going to shoot me. And I was thinking, well, I can't cancel the gig, so I better wear a bulletproof vest.
But you're in a country where they've got plenty of guns.
Yeah, but it was quite good security, and I had the bulletproof vest, and I moved around quick, you know. But part of me just felt like I'm not going to let some weirdo stop me from playing.
Was it your sexuality that threatened them, or was it the way you looked, or was it the whole 9 yards?
I think take your pick, really. It was everything.
You've had some die-hard fans. The height of Culture Club fame, what would the scene be like outside your house?
Kids, you know, dressed up as me, playing, you know, ghetto blasters, annoying the neighbours, writing on the wall, trying to climb over the fence. There was this one girl that lived outside my house for 3 years.
Really?
She was German, very beautiful, and she used to sit in the neighbour's sort of doorway.
Wow.
And then eventually her family sort of came and she told them that she was living with me. And I was like, she's not living with me.
Did you talk to her?
To start with. And then it just got a little bit like, OK, hi. I'm going in now.
You had a woman in America who left something on your pillow, a bottle of champagne and nude Polaroids with the message, I can make a man of you. I think she was barking up the wrong tree, wasn't she, George?
She was, yeah. No, I mean, I still get some of that.
Have you ever actually... with a woman?
Yeah.
Many times or not in your life?
A few.
Early on?
No, in sort of the mid-80s, I had a little bit of a fling with a girl.
And how was that?
It was great.
But then you thought, that's not for me.
Well, she became a lesbian. OK.
But did the experience just confirm to you that you were never going to be someone that would want to have a sexual relationship with women?
You know what? I actually wish I was bisexual. I think it would be more interesting. But I'm not. Sorry.
You were born George Allen O'Dowd in South East London in 1961. Your parents are both of Irish descent. Your mum's Christina, or Dinah for short. Your dad was Jeremiah, known as Jerry. You've got 5 siblings, 4 brothers and 1 sister. What was the childhood like for you?
Well, it was, you know, extreme. My dad was quite an extreme man. My dad could lose his temper and, you know, chuck the entire Sunday dinner over and everybody went hungry. He was a gambler. He'd fly off the handle quite easily. But he was also extremely charismatic and funny. He was kind of a real contradiction. And it wasn't until I got to about 15, 16 that I realised how strong my mum was, you know, how she was kind of like a tank. Because I didn't realise how much she struggled to keep the whole thing together. You know, my dad, he would gamble everything. So my mum would be out looking for what we used to call potluck stew. Going round to the neighbours to see if she could get some scrag ends or whatever, going to the butcher's. So my mum kept the whole thing together. I saw some terrible things when I was very young. You know, lots of, you know, violent incidents and screaming and my mum was quite a strong... My mum was a very strong person. You know, so she would kind of... She would give as good as she'd get, but, you know, my dad did hit her.
Punched her?
Yeah. You know, my dad left my mum for another woman after 43 years, which made me very angry. But you know, even after all of that humility that my dad put her through, you know, when he passed away, you know, she held a ceremony for him, sorry. And it was very moving, you know, to see that. It was very moving.
That power of forgiveness.
Yeah, she's an incredible woman. I didn't think I was going to cry. It was, you know, because I remember her saying, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for you, for your kids, which I knew was a lie. But I just thought it was incredibly gracious of her, you know, and it made me really love her. Not that I didn't already, but it made me really, really love her as a person.
When you were just 8 years old, your mother tried to take her own life.
Yeah, she took pills. I remember sort of, you know, keeping her awake and not really understanding what had happened. But, you know, the thing is, I used to tell my mum to leave my dad when I was, like, 9. I mean, I loved my father, don't get me wrong, I really loved him, but, you know, he wasn't a good dad and he wasn't a good husband.
Did he ever try to hit you?
Oh, he hit us all the time.
Punched?
Yeah, punched us. But everyone in the 70s punched you. It was just...
Nobody punched me.
Where did you live?
I'm not sure. It may be because you were around a lot of abuse. You've had this warped idea that this went on all the time. To me, it's very shocking that a father would punch a child.
No, it happened a lot.
But it's a highly abusive atmosphere, isn't it?
It wasn't always like that. Do you know what I mean? It was when it was bad, it was really bad, and when it was great, you know. And I look back at my childhood, and I think some things about it were brilliant, and some things about it were traumatic.
He didn't like being alone, your father. No. He'd even get you out of school. Yeah,
I used to go with him to work and go to betting shops, and I used to get, you know, that's how I got all my fashionable clothes. Saying, you know, because my dad would go gambling, and he'd say, "Don't tell your mother." So I'd get a pair of Vivienne Westwood bondage trousers. I was a fully fledged glam rocker from the age of about 10. Trying to leave the house with makeup on my dad wasn't having it. So there were quite a few times where I would sort of sneak to the front door in some sort of creation and be told to get back upstairs and put some sensible clothes on.
Did you feel different?
No, I didn't. I mean, you know, I kind of liked music and collecting jewellery and hanging out with girls. Wasn't so much interested in football and climbing trees or scrumping. So I was made to feel a bit like an outsider, but really around the time of finding Bowie was when I sort of went, because up until seeing Bowie, I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I was always made to feel like I wasn't the same as other kids, but I didn't really know why.
Did you know always that you were gay? Did you believe you were?
I knew that I was different when I was, like, 6 years old, but it wasn't until I got to about 10 or 11 that I realised, you know, that I was a gay man. And really all I ever heard in the 70s was insults about gay people.
Did you go through a period of slight doubt? Did you think, actually, maybe I'm straight? Or did you always think, no?
No. I never thought I was straight.
You never had a moment of reflection? No. When did you come out to your parents?
I was about 15, and I kind of told her that I'd been, you know, seeing this guy and things weren't going well, and kind of broke down a bit, cried to her.
Did she take it well?
I think that she was disappointed that I didn't tell her before. It was one of those weird things.
Do you think she knew? I mean, mothers always know, don't they?
Kind of, yeah, but we were so close all growing up, you know, that I think my mum was like, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, well, it's not really something you can just say over Sunday dinner. Pass the salt, by the way, I'm gay.
And what about your father?
My dad was surprisingly cool about it. My dad sort of said, you know, you're still my son. I remember him kind of getting my shoulders and saying, these are all yours, but I actually had socks rolled up in my T-shirt.
How close to death do you think you were?
I mean, I can't answer that question, you know. I mean, I was so in it, you know, that I couldn't have known, you know, I was an addict and I had no control over what I was doing. I was so kind of lost in what was going on, you know, that it was impossible for me to have any kind of perspective.
When you saw your brother go on television,
yeah,
what did you feel at the time?
To be honest with you, at the time I was upset with them because, you know, it felt like he was betraying me, but obviously in hindsight, I know why he did it. I know, obviously, he had no choice, you know, but at the time, you know, I was, as I say, so involved in what I was doing. I was such an addict, I couldn't really understand, do you know what I mean, what was going on. I just couldn't see it at all.
Do you feel grateful now for what your brother did?
I have been very lucky because I have people that love me, you know. My family have always been amazing. I've put them through a lot, you know.
Your dad once camped outside your house to stop the drugs being dropped off.
Yeah.
He set fire to the living room to get you to speak about your problems. I mean, these were dramatic steps that people were taking.
It was, I locked myself in a room and my dad was trying to get me out, so he set fire to some clothes. I mean, it was insane. I mean, my mum moved into my house at one point, and when I did try to leave the house, she would stand in front of the door and cry, and I couldn't leave. So, you know, having her there was a good thing because it kind of, I couldn't go past her.
And she would presumably beg you to stop.
Yeah.
But you couldn't.
I waited, you know, till there was an opportunity, then I would sneak off. That's what addicts do. We're very conniving.
It wasn't just your family trying to help you. Richard Branson, obviously, was very attached to you. He organised you to go to rehab at his home in Oxfordshire.
I was really grateful. I mean, you know, Richard really tried to help me, you know, and I'll always thank him for that. You know, it was very sweet of him. He took me away from the glare of publicity, because obviously, you know, there were headlines, find him. There was like a hunt, and so Richard gave me a safe haven at his house, and that enabled me to, you know, try and get better. But I didn't really realise at the time how long a journey it was going to be.
Your parents split up in 2001 after 43 years of marriage, I think it was. What were your emotions when that happened?
I was furious with my dad. I couldn't believe that he'd run off with another woman after all that time. It wasn't like my dad had sort of said, OK, we're done. He was doing it behind my mum's back. And so the nature of how my dad left my mum was very upsetting, and we didn't speak for quite some time.
Did you speak again before he died?
Yeah, on 9/11, weirdly. My dad rang me. My dad knew that I had been in America, so he was ringing to see if I was OK. We had a fantastic conversation.
Out of the blue?
Yeah, out of the blue. You know, he's my dad, you know, and I was like, whatever, you know, I love him. And then the next thing I knew, he was gone. You know, I'd kind of delayed making that phone call. I kept saying, I've got to call him back, and then I was in LA, and he passed away, and it was really difficult to deal with.
Did he ever appreciate your talent and your success?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I mean, you know, but he had a funny way about him. There was this one time I was doing a gig at, like, the Royal Albert Hall or something, and one of my friends went, you must be really proud. And he went, yeah, he does what he does, and I do what I do. I was like, OK, that's enough of a compliment for my father, you know. But, you know, he was supportive, you know. I mean, he got to share an experience. You know, I flew my mum and dad to New York on Concorde. We went all over the world with them.
George, after fighting back from the brink, you were heading for another roller coaster ride. You've never really talked about what happened that led to you going to prison. What do you want to say about it now?
It's a really difficult one, Piers, because when I was in court, I chose not to give evidence. I chose to just accept what was happening. And for me, you know, I felt that was the dignified thing to do. When I went to trial, I was a year clean, so I was already sober. So that person I was in court and the person that had been arrested, they were two different people. Plus, I just didn't want my mum to have to hear all this stuff in court. I just thought she's been through enough. I mean, I banned her from coming to the trial. But I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to accept it. I'm just going to accept the consequences of what happens. One of the things that people don't know is that I was prosecuted on my own evidence. I sent myself to prison. I told the police why I did what I did. Now, in hindsight, you know, I was having a psychotic episode. I was a drug addict. So I can't really sit here and say that my reasons for doing it were founded in any way. I wasn't insane. But I told the truth. I said, this is why I did it. You know, I was having a paranoid episode.
What do you accept happened that was just
I
unacceptable?
stopped him from leaving my apartment.
Right.
Yeah. So that I did that. You know, that was why I got done for.
Do you think that was worthy
That
of...
was terrible, what I did. And I'm absolutely ashamed and sorry about what I did. But, you know, it's been very difficult to talk about it. But what I did was wrong. You know, it was wrong. And I still pay the consequences for that now.
Have you ever said sorry for any of it?
I just did say sorry.
Yeah, I mean, to the guy, or...
Well...
Would you feel like you
know
want
what? I really don't think that it would make any difference. And I always felt like not talking about it was dignified. Because I thought, if I talk about it, I'm just going to hurt him. I'm just going to hurt the people I love. Where's the upside?
What was the worst thing about prison for you?
The worst thing was really my family, you know, like reading stuff in the press and just the thought that, you know, when I spoke to them on the phone, just they were really worried about me and I just was, like, worried about them. You know, you end up worrying about other people more than yourself. And actually, when I was in prison, you know, a lot of my friends, you know, kind of blew me away with, you know, they had friends that wrote to me every day. And
Stephen Fry wrote to you.
Stephen Fry wrote to me. I mean, you know, it was very humbling. You know, I knew that I'd kind of, you know, I'd kind of very aware that I'd messed things up really badly and that I knew I had a lot of work to do. And so I'd kind of made a decision that once I got through it, I was really going to put my life back together.
Your mother said that she felt instinctively this might be the best thing that ever happened to you.
The best thing that happened to me was getting sober. That no question. March 2nd, 2008, my friend Tony Marnock rang me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just lying here, feeling sorry for myself." And he said, "Come to an NA meeting." And I was like, "I don't want to come to this meeting." And he was like, "No, I'm going to send a cab for you. You're coming." And thank God I went. Thank God I went.
Now, let's turn to David Bowie again. Let's have a look at you as a teen. You trying to emulate your hero. Pretty similar, actually.
Yeah. Well, I was obsessed.
And you used to camp outside his house. Ever meet him in later years?
Yeah, we met a few times. We were in Mr. Chow's in New York. I was with him, Iman, and Hedy Slimane from Yves Saint Laurent. And this guy came up and said, "Hey, it's my girlfriend's birthday. Will you guys come and sing happy birthday?" And I was going to get up, because, you know, that's what I do. And Bowie was like, "No, I don't think that would be appropriate." And I kind of slid back into my seat, thinking, "Oh, my God, how embarrassing." It was quite funny, and I was like, "Oops, OK."
What was he like? For those who didn't know the real Bowie.
Lovely. We talked about EastEnders, British tea.
What was Bowie's view of EastEnders?
You know, he missed it. He liked catching it when he was back in London. And we talked about Russian art films, of which I knew very little, so I was winging it a bit during that bit.
Another music legend that you knew very well was George Michael, of course.
He was my rival. He was called George. You know, he made soul music, so everything he did, you know, it was like we were kind of battling all the time, you know. The only time that we really got together was when friends tricked us, and there was this one particular night where the two girls in Bananarama invited me to a dinner at a Japanese restaurant, and he was there as well, and we had such a brilliant time. We had so much in common. But, you know, I suppose our egos wouldn't allow us to really be friends.
You're single at the moment?
Yeah. I'm not looking for a partner. I'm kind of obsessed with work right now. You know, things are going really well. I'm open to, you know...
To offers?
I'm open to offers, but I've got no time to fall in love with anyone.
Would your mum like you to settle down with...
Better ask her. Probably.
Diana, would you like him to settle down?
Certainly would.
What about children?
No. Not
No?
me, no. I've got loads of godchildren that I love. I love the bones of them, but, you know, I'm not responsible enough to look after a child. I could barely look after a hat.
What do you feel about your mum?
Don't know what you ever did to deserve this. You know, yeah, my mum is, you know, an amazing person. And, you know, everybody that meets her loves her. I don't know, she's my mum. I don't know what to say. I mean, she's...
We love each other.
She's everything to me. And not only my mum, but also my sister.
Yeah.
I love you so much, and, you're such a big part of my life. You know, you're my little sister. You know,
When you look at them both there, and they must have had, you know, a few times when they didn't think maybe you would live.
Yeah, you know what? I'm very ashamed of the pain that I put them through. You know, it was very selfish of me. And I mean, really, you know, when I got clean, you know, I said to my mum, I'm really sorry. And she's like, don't say sorry, just stay clean. She goes, I don't want tears. I don't want an apology. Please stay clean. And, you know, that promise I will keep.
How would you like to be remembered when you finally shuffle off this mortal coil?
I'd like people to go, can't believe he's still going. You know, I don't like the idea of kind of becoming boring as I get older.
Well, George, the one thing you have never been and will never be is boring.
Thank you.
Boy George, thank you very much.
Thank you.